Hi, I'm David Cherwonogrodzky.
And I'm Manny Khaghani.
And we're here to discuss the latest trend here with coronavirus and everyone's concerns and questions. We have a speaker from California, San Francisco. Just a lot of knowledge, expertise in psychotherapy as well as just the trends psychologically. So we're hoping to unravel a lot more with people's questions, what's going on out there.
Okay, perfect. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this.
Hi.
Hi, Leah. This is Manny, and
This is David.
and you have
Hey,
it.
David.
We reviewed your background. You have a brilliant background. So, could you let us know a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate that. Well, right now I am completing my clinical psychology training, and I work with college students at a college counseling center in Northern California. I've trained in other settings as well before this, including hospital. I work with refugee families, and I've worked with elder adults, and I've worked with children. And probably my main passion is working with refugee and immigrant families, including especially women and children. And that comes a little bit because of my own background, coming myself from a family that is immigrant family from the Middle East. And actually a big part of the reason why I got into this work is because I feel really strongly about the trauma that Middle Eastern people have gone through, both in an area where there's been a lot of upheaval and also coming here to the West, and just the struggles of migration and honestly racism and all the different components of xenophobia and people who are coming from a non-Christian background. There's a lot to manage there. So as a result, that's really where my passion lies, because I also know that within the context of a lot of immigrant communities, not just Middle Eastern communities, there's a lot of stigma against people receiving support around mental health, because there's this notion of you have to be crazy to actually talk to somebody like myself. So I do a lot of work to combat that belief. And that's that component. Prior to this, I have a PhD in American Studies and African American Studies, in which I focused on individuals. I was basically a historian, even though it's an interdisciplinary program, and I worked on individuals from the Middle East and from Black communities who were working for world peace, and many of these individuals themselves were in exile because of different colonial conflicts. And so I thought about a lot of these issues from a more historical and cultural and social perspective, and I think one of the things I found in that work is that I was very removed from people. And so the idea for me was then to do this, to kind of combat these issues, address these issues from a more personal perspective. And I really come to see through my work in psychology that it helps to have both a broader social and even international lens, especially when we're working with, I think, any community, but particularly communities of color and immigrant communities. So I've tried to bring both to bear in my work.
What's the biggest hurdle that you see, though? Like the biggest, like right off the hop?
In regards to coronavirus?
I guess in your line of work, what you see the biggest hurdle is you come across?
Are you speaking with regard to the coronavirus in particular right now, given the...
No, just before it hits, what was the biggest obstacle?
I would say, for quite honestly, I think what underlines all mental illness, depression, anxiety is trauma. And I think with regard to that, intergenerational trauma. And some people think of it like, oh, what is trauma? If my parents beat me, if I've been assaulted. Actually, no. Actually, there's lots of different traumas that take place. And what happens is it can be the loss of a job as a trauma, the loss of a loved one as a trauma, any type of suffering, and which life has suffering. And if we don't process it properly, which most of us don't have any real familiarity with doing because our parents, also didn't do that, so we don't have models. What most people try to do is they try to push it aside. And they push it aside through lots of different ways. They push it aside through, looking at their phones. They push it aside through using different substances. They push it aside through, if you see people who are sometimes going through relationships like water, that's another way of pushing it aside. They push it aside. Sometimes people just go to bed. That's a way of pushing it aside. Or they become workaholics. I mean, there's lots of different ways that we can try to, we think we're dealing with our feelings, we're really just actually avoiding them. And so then when you have something hit, like for example, coronavirus, in which we're forced to sit with really uncomfortable circumstances and a tremendous amount of uncertainty, which I think is what is most troubling for everybody, including the markets, is that we don't have any skills on how to sit with uncomfortable things. And so that really leads people to even more extremes, which is where I think one of my biggest concerns is, as a mental health clinician, is quite honestly, the suicide rate could potentially rise. And I don't think that is at all me being extremist. It's just me being very honest about what we see.
And what is, in your past history, like, have you gotten a big success rate of getting people out of that slump, or redirected somewhere mentally for them, or different goals, or just what, in your opinion, what you think the best way for the common lay person to get out of it is?
Well, that's a really good question. It's a really big question. I mean, I think part of it is, in a way, a bit of a reframing of even that understanding, because I think that, yes, have people upon working with me feel like they have a different perspective? Has it helped them take, really a big part of my work is taking off the internal pressure that we're all functioning under, generally the pressure is both external, yes, that's there, but we have a much stronger, exponentially more intense internal component of that pressure in terms of the way we feel it inside of us. So I would say that people do find relief, but I would say that actually and this is where I was saying the reframing of the question is because when we start to think about our lives differently, when we start looking at things from the inside out versus the outside in, which is unfortunately our society, which this is a Western construct, but it's all over the world, is about outside in. When we start thinking of our lives from the inside out, then we turn things on its head, and it's not so much about just getting out of this slump of depression to the next happy phase, although yes, obviously that would be a goal. It's about recognizing that this is a life journey that we're on. And we think about our lives on that continuum, and we recognize actually that we don't have to be overwhelmed by suffering. Suffering doesn't have to destroy us. Difficult feelings don't have to destroy us. But there's a reason for them. And if we feel them in the presence of people who we're feeling safe around, we can start to actually learn from them. And that's really what I think and hope that my patients take away from me, is that piece, is that suffering doesn't only have to be about this big wave that comes crashing down and washes us away. We can actually recognize that there's going to be ups and downs in life, but we start to get a deeper and more truer understanding of ourselves, and that we can withstand things and we can grow and learn from them.
That's very good.
That was a great point, Leah. And I have a question for you. I talk to so many entrepreneurs that they are really depressed right now because for the last few years they worked 24/7. They made a lot of sacrifices. They could spend their time with their family, but with the hard work and dedication, they were just ready to for that payoff for their hard work. But everything's gone with this coronavirus. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I guess the first thing is that it's easy now looking back in time to say, oh, I should have done this differently. I would have done that differently. And that's the nature of life, right? We see things 2020 looking backwards rather than in the moment. So I think one piece is I would really suggest that people look at their own circumstances with compassion rather than through a critical eye, like, oh, what was I thinking? I screwed up. I wasted my life away. Like, that doesn't actually help. It makes things much worse. So I think, number one, I would say have some self-compassion and recognize that you didn't know what you didn't know, and that's actually the process of life. None of us know what's coming next. I mean, that's actually what makes life so challenging. The other component, I think, is that when we, give ourselves compassion, when we allow ourselves to grieve and just go through the experience of really being sad, really, really being sad about what has been lost, because that deserves space. Once we go through that phase, and once we kind of allow that phase to take us where it needs to take us, it's going to present its own lessons. But one of the lessons I would suggest is that it can teach us that actually all we have is our present moment. We can't just live, for the future, for the future, for the future. I mean, if anybody has been faced with a very serious illness or situation, I myself had that experience where I nearly died and my daughter nearly died. And in that experience, one of the things I realized as I was getting rushed into an emergency room is that nobody wakes up that morning, the vast majority of people do not, and say, hey, this is a good day to die. I'm going to die today. Nobody thinks of it like that. So when you have that sort of experience, then you realize, well, what am I going to do with this? So coronavirus happened. It's been devastating. It's continuing to unfold. We have self-compassion. We grieve. We process our loss, and then we say, what am I going to do with this? How is this? What is life teaching me? And from my perspective, one of the things that can teach us is that what we have is our present moment, and so we need to be grateful and to really think about things in the now. So we try to live our lives, not that we don't have any sense of the future, but we live our lives, okay, be grateful for every day. Wake up in the morning, be grateful for the family that we have. Maybe it's not all the pluses and minuses aren't quite adding up in the way that we'd like them to, but we have a life. I mean, it brings it really back to the basics.